Todd Falcone here. Very excited to be with you here, virtually be with you here at this big event, and so excited about your future and what you guys have going on with APL. So I feel honored to be able to come here and share with you guys today on what it takes to master the game of prospecting and recruiting, which, you know, I was so happy to be asked to talk about this particular subject because this is my favorite discussion point when it comes to creating success in the network marketing profession. And I've been in this profession for over 30 years. I started at the age of 22. I didn't know anything about the business. I had never heard of network marketing, but conceptually it made a lot of sense to me. I saw it and I was like, wait a minute, residual income, get paid on the efforts of lots of other people, no limit on your income, no boss, free time. All of that stuff made a lot of sense to me, and I began that journey over 30 years ago. And when I began that journey, I wanted to win. I had a desire, a hunger to win. Now, again, I knew nothing about network marketing. I'd never heard of it. I had no experience in it. I had no friends that had ever done any network marketing business. So I came in as green and naive as you can possibly be. But I had that hunger, and I want to start off with saying that because I think the hunger, the desire that you have is going to be a determining factor on whether you win or how big you win in this business. And it does require this big desire to do more, to create more, to become more. And that's the beginning of mastery, right? And so when we talk about mastery, that's an interesting term to use, right? How do you master something? And I don't think when we use the term master, we're thinking about, how can I be average at it? How can I be okay at it? How can I be below average at it? Mastery, and I think we all understand that, is being completely adept at something, having tremendous skill at something, being very powerful at that thing. And I do believe, and that's the first thing that we need to start with is, if we're talking about how to master the game of prospecting and recruiting, well, is it important to master that? Like, why should I master recruiting and prospecting? And I have to cover that because there are people that may not understand the importance of it. And you have to understand this, that, I have to say this because I'm sure we have people that have been with your company for a little bit, maybe just got started yesterday or a week ago, and then there are people that have been around for an extended period of time. And one thing that you never want to do is make assumptions, right? And this is another kind of lesson within the lesson, is you don't want to assume that somebody knows something until you discover whether they know it or don't know it. And I've made that mistake where I assumed somebody knew how to do something and then later found that they didn't even understand it. So it's important that you understand that prospecting and recruiting, exposure of your products, exposure of your business, is the single most important activity that will directly lead to revenue and the growth of your business. Now, of course, there are other things that we do, working and developing teams and leading organizations, but the most important thing in order for you to ultimately get to a position where you have a team or an organization to lead is to be able to acquire a new customer, to recruit a new distributor. And if you're unable to successfully and easily do that, then you'll never have the challenge, the amazing fun challenge of going out there and leading an organization, a larger organization. So, I do need to say that it is critically important for you guys to feel confident and feel good around this whole idea of prospecting and recruiting and exposing people and signing people up and enrolling people and sponsoring people into your APL business. So so if we all agree that, we know that recruiting and prospecting is important, utterly important, then what do we do to make sure that we're really, really good at it? So any event that I speak at, regardless of whether I'm talking about leadership or team building or prospecting and recruiting or any other subject matter, it's important to begin with this, right? You have to understand something, that network marketing is a confidence game, okay? And it's a confidence game on many different levels. It's a confidence game from the standpoint of we, all of us, if we're involved in the network marketing profession, we need to have confidence in the profession itself. Now, I say that because, people, you're all here, which is great. You're all obviously associates, leaders, individuals that are involved that have a distributor ID number with APL. But in every event that I speak at, there's always people that are at events like this that are in the company, but they really don't have a high degree of belief in the business model, right? And you would think, well, wait, I'm in the business, so I must have a high degree of belief in the business model of network marketing. But the real truth is, many people that are in network marketing are doubting the very thing that they're involved in. And here's like the litmus test. If you're ever in a position where you are having a conversation, for example, with a friend or somebody else, and you're thinking, wow, this person would be great for my APL business, and they're telling you that they're unhappy or that they're not making enough money, or there's something going on, there's a problem or a need on their side, and you have potentially a solution, and you're thinking, wow, this person would be great for this business, but then you don't bring it up. You're thinking about it, you're thinking, wow, this person would be great for my business, but then you don't bring it up. Well, why didn't you? And the opportunity presented itself for you to say, hey, look, I've got this really great business I'm doing, I'd love to share it with you, but then you don't do it. Well, why didn't you? See, and this happens all the time where the opportunity presents itself for them to expose their products or their business to someone, and there's a need that person has, but then they don't segue into that conversation about the product or the business. Well, why is that? Typically, it's because people have a level of doubt about. They're like, oh, well, I don't, I'm kind of afraid. It's almost like some of them are ashamed to admit that they're involved in network marketing, even though that they're involved in network marketing, which is the beginnings of you getting good, is getting to a point where you have a high degree of belief and a high degree of confidence in the network marketing profession. So let's knock that out first and foremost, right? So, okay, so look, the network marketing profession as it stands today. And these statistics can be validated. I'm not going to put them up on the screen, but in rough figures and very close, and it's very close to these exact figures. It's about $183 billion a year global profession. It's $183 billion a year, U.S. dollars, are moved through the profession of direct selling around the world. There are about 100 million people like you and I that are involved as independent distributors in network marketing companies throughout the world. Those to me are pretty big numbers. 100 million people, $183 billion a year global profession. In the United States, and I don't have all the global statistics in my brain, it's about, I think it's like 16.8 million people in the U.S. are involved in network marketing or direct selling, which is about 5% of the U.S. population. So the reason I share those figures with you is you need to have pillars that you can lean up against that give you a belief in something. Because like the thing is, think about it, like when somebody doesn't understand network marketing and they hear about the potential figures and what can be earned, you've probably heard some people say, well, man, that sounds too good to be true. And, the phrase, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, has created decades of skeptics. That phrase was made up by some guy in the Better Business Bureau in 1955. But I think the first place in you becoming powerful is being able to know that what you're involved in is a real, legitimate, powerful business vehicle, and be able to wake up tomorrow morning and go, you know what, if somebody were to come to you and say, hey, you're talking to them and they go, is this network marketing? Your response is absolutely it is. If it wasn't, I wouldn't touch it. Rather than what many responses from individuals are like, well, if somebody says, is this network marketing? People are like, well, it's like they skirt around the issue because they're afraid to admit that they're involved in this profession, even though they're involved in the profession, and that means that they have a disbelief in it. They don't have that power that individuals like I have, where like you could try to convince me that network marketing isn't real or doesn't work or is whatever, something other than it is, and I'm not going to buy that story because I have a high degree of belief in that business model, which when you're operating from that position, that strong position of belief, that's your power position. That's what ultimately makes you a better recruiter. Before we even talk about the skill sets and the other things that are involved in mastering recruiting and prospecting and network marketing is being convicted, having that degree of conviction where somebody tries to push you over and you're so stable in your beliefs that they can't even touch you. And I think that really truly is the power position. So first and foremost, it's the business model. And look, the profession of network marketing, as it stands today with the types of compensation plans that we have, has been around for over 70 years. It's not some new thing. I mean, 183 billion a year in global sales, 100 million people involved around the world, over 70 years as an established profession. Direct selling has been around for eons, like, hundreds and hundreds of years. But with the types of compensation plans that we have today, it's been around for just over about 70 years. And so that should be enough to give you this, security, right? To know that, okay, yeah, I'm in a real business. Now, does that mean that everybody that you're going to encounter is going to feel the same way you do? No, but what's important is that they buy your story, you don't buy theirs. Like if somebody misunderstands or doesn't understand or doesn't care to understand our profession, that you don't allow yourself to buy into somebody's opinion or story in something that they don't even understand anything about. Because the other thing is, everybody's got an opinion, right? And some people will give you their opinion, and they don't even know anything about it. In fact, there's a phrase I'll give you. I didn't make up the phrase. I heard this years ago. People are oftentimes down on the things that they're not up on, right? So in other words, they're like, oh, whatever, about something. But if you were to say, well, what do you know about it? They're like, well, nothing. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You're down on this thing, and you're like putting down something that you know nothing about. Do you have any firsthand knowledge of it? No. Have you ever done network marketing? No. So do you understand what I'm saying? So when you know, you know. And that to me is like the beginning of your success, because, and what is confidence, right? Confidence is ultimately, or belief is mindset, right? And we've all, like at any training, and I'm sure there's people at this event that have or will train on the subject of mindset, but mindset's everything. Like this business is probably more mindset than it is skill set, right? I have a formula that I teach in network marketing for creating success, and it's mindset plus skill set plus action equals success. So if you're operating from a convicted, belief, powerful mindset, and you do the right actions, which is prospecting, recruiting, and exposure, and you do those skillfully, that's how you create success. So it's actually an acronym, MASS, mindset plus action plus skill set equals success. So what I wanted to start with you guys today is just getting you in this position of going, wait a minute, I'm in this business. First of all, you're a network marketer. Before you represent APL, you wake up every morning and you are in the network marketing profession. So you have to be proud to be a network marketer and not feel ashamed to be involved in network marketing. And here's another like little example. So many people who in fact, I know this because I've done this for, like I said, over 30 years. One of the greatest reasons people don't act is because of fear. And there are different types of fear, but one of the greatest fears is someone they're afraid of being judged by others, right? So they don't approach somebody that they know that they already have a relationship with because they're so worried about how somebody's going to respond to them if they find out that it's a network marketing business. So again, that goes down to that whole belief in the business model. And I'm sure there are some of you watching me today that have done this, where you have a friend that you'd love to put into the business, but you don't approach them because you're so worried about how they're going to respond to you and how they might judge you, and perhaps they will no longer be your friend because you brought an amazing business to them, which to me is like insanity, right? I'm bringing an amazing business to a friend of mine, and then they're not going to be my friend because I brought some cool business to them. That makes me kind of giggle, right? I mean, so this is like the beginning, the foundation of you becoming an expert, becoming a master. The second thing that you need to have an established level of belief or conviction around is the business that you're involved in with APL, right? So all of you are here. Anybody watching me is likely a distributor, associate, leader with APL, and you would think that most people, and I think most of you are probably in this position where you wouldn't even be here if you didn't have a belief in this company. So most people struggle more with the profession of network marketing when they're in a company than the company itself, right? But, a great question, a couple questions to ask yourself is do people make money in APL? I think you can look around, even if you're brand new, and go, yeah, people make money. Do they make the kind of money that I want to have in my life in this profession, and you look around, you're like, yeah, I'd love to have that person's check, right? And so that should give you, that's like preponderance, that's proof, that's evidence that, that it works. And then the third thing is your products, right? Do people get results on the products that we're bringing out in the marketplace? And I'm pretty confident that all of you can answer yes to that question, otherwise you wouldn't be here. So then we've got the profession of network marketing, the opportunity that APL represents to you, and the value proposition that your product offering is in the marketplace, which should give you this belief in those. Those are the three things. Now the fourth thing is you, right? Having a belief in yourself, and this is the variable. You're the variable. So establishing a belief in yourself is where we work on and start developing your. This is where the work is, right? This is where the real work is helping you to work on your skills and your confidence in this business, because I'm sure we could all agree that there are some people that are better than others in this business. Like you have somebody that you look at and you're like, wow, they're so good, and they're top leader, and they're just like they recruit tons of people in the business. They got this big organization, and maybe you're brand new and you don't feel like you have that confidence yet. I want you to understand something, because again, we're talking about, and I began this whole training today on the subject matter of this being a confidence game, right? And so it's having confidence in the network marketing profession. It's having confidence in your company, your products, your corporate leaders, your field leaders, right? All of these things. And then we have to have a confidence in ourselves, which is, like I said, the variable. And if you understand something, this is important for you to understand, that confidence, right? And confidence, okay, what is confidence? Confidence is belief. Confidence is, a knowing that you can do it. It's like I have and I don't know that I necessarily need to define confidence for you guys. I think you know what it is. And competence and competence are directly related to one another. Competence is your ability to do something well. In other words, your skill level, your adeptness at that particular thing, right? So if you have low confidence, let's say I'm not very confident prospecting. I have no confidence, if you have no confidence prospecting, it's probably because you have no competence, you have no skills. But if we can rise your skills, right? If we can increase your competence, your skill level, then your confidence is going to increase, and you will be less hesitant and more likely to move and approach people wherever you are, no matter what the situation is, because you feel good not only about the profession, the company, the products that you represent, but you feel good about your ability within the model, right? And that's where the work is. And that's really what I want to spend the rest of the time today focusing on, is how do you develop a higher degree of confidence in yourself, and how do you improve? Like, okay, so it's one thing, it's like, how do you get better at something? I've heard people say, if you want to be successful and somebody's not getting results, well, you need to go talk to more people. I'm like, well, that's not really a good answer, is it? I mean, it might be an answer, but it's not the answer, right? So if somebody's not getting results in network marketing, and let me just tell you this straight up, network marketing works for those who work it, okay? If you work the business, you'll get results. If you don't work the business, you don't get results. And I say that because there are outsiders or naysayers that, will say, well, network marketing only works for the small few, or only works for these special people or something, and that's not true. The truth is, network marketing works for anybody who works it. Does that mean everybody's at the same pace and achieves levels of success at the same time? No, it doesn't. Everybody's on their own journey. But it does work for those who work it. And if we bare bones simplify this business, we only really do two things. And I'm talking about really simplifying what network marketing is. We get people in, and we keep them in. Okay? That's it. We do things to acquire customers, to get customers, and then after they become a customer, we do things to keep them as customers, and we get people in. That means we sign people up as reps, associates, affiliates, distributors, and then we do everything we can to help those people create success, so we keep those people. That's all we do in this business, really. If we really bare bones simplify it. So what I want to see you guys be able to do is feel really, really good about putting people in the business and having a tremendous amount of confidence around talking to people about the business. And and this is, like I said, when I began today, this is like totally my favorite subject, because when I started in the business, I had no skills. I had no confidence. I was low in competence, like down here. I was like, you couldn't even see my hand. It was like down here in competence and way down here in confidence. I had no confidence and no competence, but I wanted what network marketing could provide. And again, I mentioned at the very beginning as well, that the whole idea of hunger, that desire. Like in order for you to improve, in order for you to be more confident, to be more competent, you got to want it. And not everybody wants it, because it requires some level of work, and it requires some level of commitment to improve. And so, a couple things, for example. Think about something, and I think this would be good to use this example, something that you're really, really good at outside of network marketing. Like everybody's good at something. What are you amazing at? Maybe you're an amazing tennis player. Maybe you're an amazing chess player. Maybe you're an incredible chef. Whatever that thing is that you're good at, were you an expert at it the very first time you did it? No, I mean, you might, okay, let's say you open up your mouth and you sang, and, just God gifted you with this amazing voice. That doesn't mean you were an expert, but, you had the basic, vocal cords that when you open up your mouth and began singing, you're like, wait, where'd this come from, right? But you weren't an expert at it. So I want you to ask yourself, how did you become so good at that activity? And that's the same thing here in this business, is how did you get good at it? Well, I started taking lessons. Okay, that's interesting. So you started taking lessons. Who did you take lessons from? Did you take lessons from somebody who knew nothing about it? No, I took lessons from an amazing singer. And the reason I'm using this example is, who are you listening to? If you want to get good at this business, you should be paying attention to other people that are good. So observation, for example, if I was in APL right now, I'd be looking around. I'm like, who's good? Who is really making things happen? I'm going to be like, oh, that person. I'm going to see if I can observe that person, watch that person, learn from that person, see if I can replicate or model what that person is doing, almost to the point of I'm copying that person. In fact, I did that early on in my career. I had a guy that was 27, I was 22. He was making money, I was broke, and he was, relatively close to my age, and he worked in the same training center that we were in. And I was looking at him. I mean, literally looking at him. I was trying to talk the way he talked, walk the way he walked, say the things he said. And that began to work for me. It wasn't I'm not saying this is the beginning and the end, but observation of other successful people is the beginning, of you really starting to decide for yourself, I'm going to be good at this, and I'm going to start seeking out answers on how to be as good at this as I possibly can. So you can observe other people. You can model other people. Maybe you have somebody that you directly work with that can coach you. If you played any sport growing up, soccer, tennis, football, baseball, hockey, I don't know, gymnastics, and this is something that really troubles me, because everywhere I go, people say that they want to get good in network marketing. I want to be exceptional, but then what are they really doing to become exceptional? Like I'll go to an audience, and my assumption is if there's a group of people in the room, they want to be good. And so I'm like, oh, okay, well, what are you doing to get good? And they're like, well, what do you mean? Well, you said you want to get good. What are you doing to get good? Well, I'm doing it. And that's one thing you can do. You can certainly do it, and you'll learn through experience. Like, you can't get good at the thing that you never do. So you can't be sitting on the sidelines and not prospecting and not recruiting and expect to get good at prospecting and recruiting by I have to wait till I know everything, or I've read all the books, or I've attended all the events, and I've studied this deeply. No, you get you dive into the pool and you start swimming, right? You start doing something in spite of not being good, because then you can start to learn from your experience. And that's yet another way towards improvement, is getting in there and doing it. Like, I live on a golf course, right? And I can't just go out on the golf course having never touched a golf club and step up on the first tee and go play golf and expect to play a great round of golf. I've never played golf. I mean, I have played golf, but let's say I'd never played golf. I would shoot 190. I don't even know. I would be, and by the way, that's not a good number if you're playing golf. Why? Because I've never done it before. So you can't get good at the thing that you've never done. But if I went on the golf course every single day and just stepped up on the first tee and went and played golf, I would ultimately improve through the experience that I'm having, the repeated exposure to that experience. But that's not the epitome of getting good. If I really wanted to get good, I would go to the practice range. I would go to the practice facility. And the thing that troubles me is everywhere I go in network marketing, people say that they want to get good, but they're not doing the things that help them to get good, right? They're not practicing. I would ask you this very question right now. How much time did you spend practicing your craft in the past 7 days? And you can't answer me in this environment that we're in, but ask yourself that question. It's a very powerful question to ask yourself. How much time did I spend practicing in the last 7 days? Well, what do you mean? Well, I mean, did you get together with a team member and maybe role play a little bit and practice your invite, practice addressing questions or objections, practice how you'd set up a follow-up, practice how you'd walk through enrolling somebody or closing somebody into the business. And the truth is most people can't answer that question because they're not doing it, yet they want to get good. But if you played a sport growing up, okay? And again, we're talking about mastery here, okay? If you played a sport growing up, you had practice. There's no sport that you're like, well, no, I played soccer and my coach mailed us our uniforms and said show up for the game on Saturday, even though we'd never, you wouldn't be put in the game if you didn't show up at practice for my coach. Even if you were the best player, if you didn't show up for practice, you were not in the game. And practice is one of the most valuable things that you can do to improve, right? So you can learn by observing, by watching other people and paying attention to what other people are doing and see if you can model or copy what they're doing when you follow another successful person. That's the important thing, is that you're following somebody who knows what they're doing. Like if I was going to get good at golf and I wanted to learn through observation, I would watch a player like Tiger Woods or some other top-level PGA Tour player and see if I can model and see what's going on in their golf swing and pay attention to it. And I may, I'll get something out of it. I may not get everything out of it, right? I'm not going to turn into Tiger Woods by watching Tiger Woods, but I can certainly see some things that he's doing that can help me that I can model in my golf game. Same thing in network marketing. So observation, again, is very important. Okay, well, understanding, well, I can't get good at something that I never do, so in spite of not being good, I've got to put myself out there, and I've got to face my fears a little bit and do it when I'm not feeling super comfortable. And actually, that's the only pathway to growth for you, is doing things that feel uncomfortable for you. If we're always doing things that feel very comfortable, then we're never going to grow. So that you putting yourself into that slight position of discomfort is actually going to help stretch you and help grow you. So, and then practice. Practice is another thing. Taking the time to, setting aside dedicated time to practice your craft. Like, okay, so I'm a professional speaker. It's what I do for a living. If I'm in a hotel the morning of doing my presentation, even if I gave the same presentation using the same slide deck, if I was using a slide deck the week before at another event, I'm in my hotel room that morning of, and I'm practicing my presentation that, it's my presentation, it's my content, it's my slide deck. I delivered the same presentation to a completely different audience the week before, yet I'm still in my hotel room practicing the timing and going through it. Why? Because when I show up on that stage, like even showing up for you today on this virtual stage, I want to be able to deliver the very best possible experience I can, rather than get up and be like, can you imagine if I got on this camera and I was like, hello, Apple, APL, hi, you guys would be like taking a nap right now. But you can tell through whatever the first 15, 20, 25 minutes of this that clearly I'm prepared. I know what I'm talking about because I prepared for this. And I practiced this ahead of time. So that's something that I would encourage you to ask yourself, is if you really want to master this craft, then how much time are you spending in practice? Because if you're not spending any time practicing, you're not enabling yourself or allowing yourself the true opportunities to get better at this business. And the truth is that a great majority, and that is, majority is not less than 50%, that means more than 50%. A great majority, that means more than 50% of the people that I've exposed myself to in different events are not spending any time practicing. So I'm just going to be very firm when I say this, is you need to spend time practicing your craft. get together with a teammate, practice your invite, practice how you're asking questions, practice like tough objections, easy objections, and we'll get into some more of this as we go along, but practice is a crucial, necessary element towards you mastering this whole game of prospecting and recruiting, because it's going to make you feel more comfortable, more confident, more skilled. And when you're in that position, you'll go talk to anybody, anywhere, at any time. And given the growth that you guys are going through, the amazing growth that you guys are going through at APL, don't you think it's important that you are the most highly skilled person that you can possibly be? All right, one other thing that is so, if I could make you do this, I would make you do it. But this is a volunteer business. It's a volunteer sport. So, we can't really force anybody to do anything. But I'm just going to reiterate my point. If I could make you do what I'm about to tell you, and even the practice thing I just mentioned, if I could force you to practice, I would force you to practice, because I know the end result, and so do you. Like any of you, listening to me right now know the end result of you spending time practicing is you're going to improve. So ask yourself, how much time are you doing it? And if you're not doing it, it's time to start scheduling it. The other thing is, and I learned this in speech class in college, which is so funny. I almost failed speech class, but the first time that I learned this lesson was when I was in a speech class, and we had to talk about a school pencil for 60 seconds in front of a camera, and I got up in front of this camera, and I'm all, confident and cocky, and I'm going to, I get up, and I know this is a pen right here, but I'm like, oh, this pencil is so beautiful, it's yellow, it's red, da-da-da-da-da, and I'm talking about the pencil, and I get off the stage or off the front of the classroom, and I'm looking at my classmates, I'm like, yeah, you try to top that one. And the next day, we had to watch the 60 seconds, and I was so we were taped on a VHS tape, and my presentation was more like, pencil. And I was floored, because what I thought I did was, this amazing, beautiful yellow pencil with soft lead and a great eraser. But the reality was I was terrible. And I want you to understand something. Awareness is the first step towards creating change. So what you've got to do in order for you to master anything is you've got to build things in there that enable you to have a level of awareness about how you're doing or what you're doing, so that you can make improvements on it in the future. So I use that example because, as a college student, that level of awareness was like, it was just blaring in my face. Todd, you're terrible talking about a pencil. Like, all you said was and like. And so when I began my network marketing journey and I wanted to get good at it, I remembered that. And so I would spend time back in the day using a cassette tape and recording some of my calls, and then listening back to my calls and listening to what I was saying and what the prospect was saying. And I was able to pick up on things like, wow, I'm interrupting this prospect, I'm cutting them off, or I'm talking too much, or, wow, it was interesting where I was having this great chat with this person, and then all of a sudden they were not interested anymore, and then I backed up the tape, and then I said something that was offensive, or I said something that maybe I shouldn't have said, or on the other hand, maybe I did something, and then they went, what? What did you say? Wait a minute. Wait, wait a minute. I said this, and then they lit up. Wait a minute. I got to remember to say this. And something I've said to many audiences, when I'm defining what success is, and there's many definitions of success, of course, but success is repeat what works, delete what doesn't, right? So if you do something and it works, and you're like, wow, that was really good, do it again and again and again. And if you do something and it doesn't work for you, you put that in the delete category, and you're like, I'm not going to do that again because that didn't work out so well for me, right? Even to this day as a speaker, like when I speaking at a live audience in front of a big group, and they're taping or videoing the training, I always get a copy of it, because then I can look back at it and I can watch the recording, and I can see where I need to make improvements. Oh, well, I gave this new example about some story I was sharing, and the audience lit up with laughter, and it was funny, and they were like, they got the message. I'm like, oh, I got to bring that story into my next presentation. Or I do something else, and I try it, and it doesn't work. I'm like, that didn't work out as well as I wanted it to, so I don't think I'm going to do that again, or I'm going to do it differently in the future, right? So that's something that you can do, and the only way you can do that is through recording yourself. And I'm not saying you need to record all of your calls. or your presentations or your meetings. But if I was doing an in-home meeting, for example, I'd have a camera in the corner and I'd be videoing the presentation and watching, and then looking at it. And then another powerful thing, and this is something that isn't really discussed very often, is the power of group discussion, right? So here's an example. Like, let's say you truly, truly, truly wanted to be a master at this business. And you were like, I am dead set on being as good of an APL recruiter, prospector. I want to be the best I can possibly be. Okay, well, you would observe, learn through observation. You would learn through doing. You would learn through practice. You would learn through recording yourself. One thing you can do through practice and recording yourself is, if you did it in a small group environment and you had maybe a handful of your associates with you, and then you got together and you got in a circle and you had a group discussion about the different experiences, that's where bigger learning occurs. So let's say there was 8 of us in a room and we were kind of in little groups of 2 and we were practicing prospecting and even maybe recording ourselves at the same time, which you could do. And, we get together afterwards and we're talking about, okay, we all brought up the objection, I don't have the time. Well, how did you handle I don't have the time? Well, I just said, bye. Or this person says, well, how does that feel that you don't have the time? Or you end up having a group discussion around the subject matter. That's where a significantly higher level of retention occurs. And I think it's important for all of you as APL associates, as entrepreneurs, to know and understand how to be a better teacher, right? How to understand, well, how does learning occur, right? Learning occurs through, I don't know if I would call this lecture. I'm sitting here having a chat with you in my home office, which is beautiful. But, it's a one-way conversation. I guess it's essentially, quote, lecture. If I included audio and visuals, that would be another element. If we, had group discussion, if we had practice, each level increases the retention of whatever that skill is that we're working on. In this case, we're talking about prospecting and recruiting. And you would be able to improve by adding other elements into the picture, like group discussion. Seriously, what if you all, like a small group of you, 10 of you got together on your team, and you had a group discussion over how to be better at inviting somebody to take a look? That would be an interesting discussion to have, right? Well, what do you say to a person? Well, one of my favorite questions is, hey, John, do you at all keep your options open in terms of making money outside of what you're currently doing? Well, why do you ask that question? Well, I used to ask a different question, and I asked it this way, and I didn't really get a great response, and I kept working on the question, and I got to the point where when I would ask the question, hey, Susie, let me ask you a very simple question. Do you at all keep your options open in terms of making any money outside of what you're currently doing as a real estate professional? When I asked the question in that way, I tended to get a higher percentage of response versus asking it in any other way. So that's why I stuck with asking that question that way. Oh, okay, well, that makes sense. You've done it through trial and error, right? It would be an interesting thing to have like a group discussion around it. And I also want to say this, that even if you're not an expert, like you don't yet consider yourself a master or an expert at this craft, but you know something. You know more than the person over here. That if you teach this other person what it is that you do know, even though you don't know everything, and we never will know everything, even if you teach the person what it is you do know, that will increase your personal retention dramatically of that thing that you're teaching them. That's actually the highest level of retention, is through the art of teaching. So if I was teaching somebody how to, execute an invite, even though I wouldn't call myself the invite master, I do, because I've been doing it for a long time, but let's say in this example you didn't, you would still increase your retention of that skill by teaching it to another associate in APL, somebody on your team. So the other thing I want you guys to know is this movement towards expert, being a pro, being an expert, being a master is a process. It's a journey, and it's something that you're always on, right? That you never stop doing. There's a lot of beautiful books, but the one that just popped into my mind is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And Stephen Covey, there's a lot of great points in that book, but one of the really important points, and I want you guys to understand this, and this goes back to the importance of this whole idea of just working on your craft, like are you working on getting better? Is in the book, he tells this story about this lumberjack. And there's a guy walking through the woods, and he's just going through a walk through the forest, and, he stumbles across this lumberjack. And this lumberjack is sitting there with a manual saw, and he's trying to cut down a tree with not even a chainsaw, like a manual saw. And the guy who's walking through the woods is watching him for a little while, and you can see the guy's sweating and frustrated, and he's just beside himself, and he finally walks up to the lumberjack, and he taps him on the shoulder, says, "Excuse me, Mr. Lumberjack, what do you?" And the guy doesn't even, he's still sawing, and he's like, I've been watching you for a while. I couldn't help but notice, but there's no teeth on your saw. And the guy looks up at him, and he doesn't stop sawing, and he's like, "Oh, I'm just too busy sawing to sharpen my saw." Wait a minute. Wait. So I want you to really understand that point. I think you do. You can't be so busy sawing that you don't take the time to sharpen your saw. So can you imagine this guy? It's like he's got a manual saw that's like as sharp as a butter knife, which would not even penetrate the skin of anything. And but if he only took the time to step back and either get a new saw or sharpen the saw, he could then step up, and because it became razor sharp, he would be able to cut through the tree. That goes back to my points that I've given you thus far on you doing things to, where you're working on getting better. Like you reserve time to improve yourself, right? You're setting time aside to improve yourself, that you don't just expect to get better. You're doing specifically things to help you get better, right? You're observing. And not only are you observing, and then you're going, okay, I've observed what this other successful person is doing. I'm going to try that. I'm going to apply that. You're practicing, and you're working on it. And okay, I remember what I took from practice, and I'm going to apply it into the business. I'm going to be present of mind enough to know that when I'm prospecting and talking to people, I'm going to recall the things I did well and repeat those, and then the ones I didn't do well, I'm not going to do. I'm going to make sure that I press record, and not only record it, but then listen back to what was recorded and see if I can pick up on something that I did when, because if you're trying to pay attention to what you're doing while you're doing it the whole time, you may not actually pay full attention to what you're doing. So the purpose of recording yourself gives you an opportunity to be present there, and then listen back to the recording and see if you can fix some things that may need to be fixed and do things differently in the future. So it's just really important. Again, what I would hope that you would do from what we've talked about so far today is that you act on it, right? That you do something with it. Like the phrase that I use all the time in any training is soak and apply. Soak in the information, sure, take notes, be here, be present, pay attention to what I'm saying, but then it's not the knowledge that makes the difference, it's the application of the knowledge that makes the difference. Like I tell people all the time, record yourself, or practice, or observe, learn through observation, or any of these things, and then they're like, oh, that's a great idea, but then they don't do it. It's like, why would you not do something that's proven to help you get better, right? And again, it all comes down to it being a volunteer sport, and really one of the first things I said is, do you have the desire to get better? Do you have the desire to do what's necessary to get a better result? Because the thing is, if you take the time to sharpen your saw, the time that you put in is going to be way more efficient, way more productive than someone who doesn't. Like if I were to get into a recruiting competition today, me against a brand new person who's never recruited in network marketing, I'm going to smoke them. Why? I mean, if we work the same amount of hours, I'm going to get way better results, recruit way more people. Why? I mean, because I got more experience, because I practiced it, I worked on my craft, I recorded myself, I've worked on developing my skills. It's I've been a work in progress. I've paid attention to what works and what doesn't work, and I've been a student of success. Like I got to tell you a quick funny story. There's a guy I worked with. So when I was in college, I met this guy Fernando, and he was 42 years of age. I was 21. He always had a big, thick wad of cash, and I basically had candy wrappers in my pocket. I had no money. I was a broke college kid. And one day he says to me, he calls me kiddo. He's like, kiddo, I'll show you how to make $1,000 a week. And I was like, what do you do? I mean, I don't even, like, is it legal? I don't even know what he did. He's like, well, I sell cable television. And he goes, I'm always number one. And he goes, I'll help you get a job, but I will only do it, and I want you to pay attention to what I'm about to say. I will only do it if you do it the way I teach you to do it. And I was like, oh, I mean, he had a big wad of cash, and he's telling me he's making $1,000 a week, and I'm broke. I'm like, okay. So I managed to get a job, and he takes me to Garden Grove, California, and we're in the back of his van, and he proceeds to write out a script for me in Spanish. And I'm watching him write out this script. And I'm like, that's in Spanish. He said, I know. He goes, I only sell to Spanish-speaking people. You need to memorize this. And he goes, I told you have to do it my way, or I'm not going to teach you how to do it. He goes, all the other guys, they work 12 hours a day, 5, 6 days a week. He goes, I work 3 hours a night, 3 nights a week. I'm always number one. I'm like, okay. So I didn't say, well, I want to go do it a different way. I memorized the script. I've still got it memorized to this day. Hola, yo soy de cable televisión. Vamos a venir a todas las personas aquí con el cable. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I've got it memorized 33 years later. And the lesson that I learned is this. If somebody has a way of doing something, like they're succeeding at it, and they're like, hey, this is the way I do it, and it works. I'll show you exactly how to get the result that I'm getting. You don't reinvent the wheel. You don't do it your own way. You do it that way. And so all these things that I've shared with you thus far are proven pathways to mastering this craft. Okay? And I got a lot more that I want to share with you, but I just want to kind of pause for a moment and help you understand that what I'm sharing with you works if you work it. I've got no reason, and if you can think of one reason why I would want to lead you astray and put you in a direction that's not going to help you improve, I'm all ears. But I don't think anybody can think of a legitimate reason why I would want to do that, because that's just senseless. So that to me was a major life lesson before I ever got involved in network marketing. It's like, if somebody's got a way if they're succeeding at something and they got a way of doing it, and they're willing to show you their way, and their way is better than everybody else's way, why would you want to do it any other way than their way? And that means that also you've got people that you can observe in your company that are super successful that you can model after, as I've already mentioned. So these are some of the things that will help you move into that direction of mastering your craft. Okay, so we focused on, in the beginning of this training, on this whole importance of practice, of learning through observation, of learning by doing, of recording yourself, of paying attention to other successful people. And if somebody who's successful in that thing that you want to do is willing to teach you or share with you how they do it, then you replicate that success. You don't reinvent the wheel. That's another very important thing. I want to shift gears right now, and I want to take you into a different part of my studio and share with you some specifics on different things that we do in prospecting and recruiting, inviting, following up, overcoming objections, closing, these kinds of things, and have the rest of our discussion being more specific around some of these other items. So we're going to shift gears. You're going to see a totally different environment, and I'm going to take you into that studio now.